it's Owen. I'm sitting here at Waimea Bay at the North Shore of Hawaii. This is a very fitting place to be starting this video because right behind me, you'll see people jumping off a rock, and many of them are seeing that rock for the first time. They're nervous, and they're taking the plunge. It takes a lot of courage. And this video is going to be about that starting point when you're taking the plunge into meeting new people, into becoming more attractive, into getting better at dating, and really deciding what kind of approach you want to take to get better at it. Because to get better at dating, to get better socially, at networking, at making friends, you're going to be meeting a lot of new people, and you're going to want to be getting better at it. You're going to want to go out, maybe take some rejections, maybe it doesn't go so well, but through the process of that, you're going to want to be tweaking what you're doing and improving. So in this video, what we're going to be focusing on as far as taking that plunge is the difference between technique-based social skills versus frame-based social skills, okay? So technique-based social skills being maybe you change your eye contact or your body language or the way that you take pauses or funny things that you say or different ways of getting somebody wanting your approval. That's a technique that you might use versus a frame, which is your underlying concept of who you are, your understanding of who other people are and how you connect to the world overall, okay? So one of them is taking action, action taking. The other one is doing or being, right? One is taking action, doing things. The other is just who you are as a person. Now, this for me was one of the craziest things because I remember when I was first trying to get better at social skills, and the veterans of this, the people that were kind of the OGs, the original gangsters of our movement, would always say that what it really comes down to is knowing who you are and knowing how you connect to the world. So for me, when I'm new, I have no idea how to talk to anybody. I hear, so the first thing you gotta do is know who you are and know how you connect to other people. It's like, thanks. I think I'm Owen, and I think I'd like to date somebody. I think I'd like to not be sitting alone in my basement going crazy every day and instead be Owen dating somebody. Like, that's what I wanted. How is knowing that going to help me at all? And why is it that the most experienced people will always come back to this kind of, it's all about the frame, or they'll say things that to me felt very condescending. They'll say, it's about being, not doing, just be. So I'm sitting there, I'm hearing this when I'm young, and I'm like, okay, I'm Owen, I want to date somebody, I don't want to sit alone in my basement crying, so I'm ready to be. I'm being, what's happening? Nothing's happening. It's to the point that it can feel infuriating, condescending, borderline insulting when somebody says that to you. And I remember being in different seminars that I would take on the subject of dating, and I would hear people talking about this, and I would completely zone out. There was an old seminar I used to go to. It was called Double Your Dating with a guy named Eben Pagan, but back then, that's his real name. He used to go by David D'Angelo. You can look him up. He's really amazing, an old school mentor of mine. And he would even come to me when I was teaching it, when I was young. He'd say, Owen, it's really cool, all these techniques that you do, but what about being? Stop doing so much. What about being? You've got to be it. Or this is kind of funny. He would watch one of my seminars that I do, because I would be a guest speaker at his seminars, and he'd say, Owen, it's like you're trying too hard. You've just got to be it. Just own it. Be it. You don't need every little idea, every line, every technique. And I remember him calling me on the phone saying this, and it was to the point that I was paranoid that he was trying to manipulate me. I literally thought this guy who's mentoring me, who's changing my life, like one of the most important people that I've ever met, ever. And I'm thinking that this man is trying to trick me into this kind of transition. So funny enough, when I had my transition, you're gonna laugh at this, I was reading a PDF file on my laptop. This is like the crazy story. I'm sitting here on my laptop at around age 25, 26, and for whatever reason, there's a PDF file sitting on my laptop. I don't even know what it is. And it was this PDF file called On Being a Man. And I saw it there for a couple months. I think one of my interns in my business probably has an interest in the general subject matter of dating, so he wound up downloading this thing and he left it there. So eventually I click on this PDF file of David D'Angelo, this program called On Being a Man. I read this thing, completely changed my life. I couldn't sleep for days. I mean, I probably slept for days, but it was like I slept poorly for several days, and that night I could barely sleep. So in the PDF, let me give an example of a being frame, is he said, a boy takes the credit for everything, but a man gives credit to other people. Even when you're winning, he gives credit to other people. Now, so if a boy is taking the credit and blaming everybody else for a failure, but a man is giving everybody else the credit and he's taking the blame, the man is saying, I take the blame. The adult says, I take the blame. The boy defers blame. And I'm thinking, that's what it means to be a man? So you're telling me that being a man means you work super hard, you don't get the credit, and being a boy means that you work super hard, you take the credit. That doesn't make any sense, right? But I started thinking about it, And I realized, take an example of being a man, okay, on being a man. Well, let's look at that frame. When you're somebody who's operating at a very high level and you completely win, let's say that LeBron James wins the championship and he says, I credit my coach, I credit my team, I credit God. I'm so lucky that this could have happened. I've got such great teammates. I'm so appreciative for my wife and the support that she gave me. Or let's say, for example, that LeBron James loses in the finals, and rather than blaming his team, he says, this is on me. I own this. Look, at a little boy level, the little boy's looking at that saying, oh, it's LeBron's fault. He just said it's his fault. A man says, this is a responsible adult, right? Any grown man, grown woman, whoever it is, says, this is a responsible adult. Meanwhile, if he gives the credit to others, it makes him that much more magnanimous. It makes him that much more powerful. That's who he's being. And by the way, that can't be a technique. He can't win and then say, I give the credit to everyone else. And then you can see that desperation for credit reeking off of him. It's completely obvious. It has to be something that he's being, or he could try that to transition, but it wouldn't be quite as convincing. So I remember I read this. So crazy, I read this. And I called up Eben Pagan, and I said, Eben, this is the most amazing thing I've ever read. Thank you so much. You changed my life. You know, waking me up to this whole being, not doing paradigm. Thanks for not giving up on me, Eben. Thanks for not assuming that I'm going to be this kind of little kid forever and giving me a chance. Not to mention he sent me so many customers. It's just ridiculous. This guy just changed my life. So, I'm doing I'm doing it. So, so anyway, so what happened was I said to him, oh, this changed my life. And he says, Owen, I'm going to send you the DVDs of this program. And I was like, you know, I'm moving tomorrow. Don't bother sending it. And he had some urgency to send it. Maybe he just thought it would be good for business for me to see it and recommend it like I'm doing here. I don't know. But I think he was trying to help me. And I think that as a teacher, you feel a calling to help other people in need. And I was in need. So what happened was I watched this DVD set, which was, you know, the PDF file, in effect, was the companion piece for this DVD that he had created. And in the third DVD, he says, you know, we're talking a lot about being. But if you'd like to learn more about the specific steps, Owen is sitting there in the front row, and you could go learn from him. He's really good at it. Now, when I saw that, I almost wanted to faint. I was so shocked. I thought, how could it be possible? I was sitting right at this life-changing seminar. I was sitting right here. This is insane. How could I have missed this? This is the best information. It's about being. How could I have missed it? And I thought about it for a minute. It's like I was actually a guest at that seminar, and I remembered back, and here's what I thought. When I was first watching that seminar, my interpretation of it was, this is more of this crap that Eben creates where he won't tell you what to do because it's a bunch of this sort of woo-woo inner game thing, and it doesn't have any results, and I just don't even want to hear it, and I can't wait for me to get up as a guest on the stage and tell them how to really do it. That was what I thought. Now, I was getting results, taking action, and using technique at that time. I was definitely getting way better results than I got from doing nothing. And what I'm going to proceed to explain in this video is that there's definitely a space for learning technique. I think it's phenomenal. I love this stuff, and that's why I'll always teach it. But nonetheless, I couldn't see it because I wasn't ready to let it land. So if you're somebody who's ever watched my content or any content like mine, doesn't have to be mine, and you found yourself hearing different frames about being, and you thought to yourself, why would I want to learn that? Just tell me what to say. Understand that I've been there with you. I've been through this. And understand that when I learned about being, my results skyrocketed exponentially. It's almost like, you know, warp travel, right? They'll say that to travel through space at the speed of light, still to get to the next planet would take a really long time. But if we could go in a warp zone, it would just collapse reality, and it's a quantum leap, a completely different paradigm of space travel. You can see my inner nerd here. Well, that's a whole new paradigm where results are massively exponential. It's just a completely different level. The being paradigm, you have to understand, your results will be so much higher. The quality of people that you will attract into your life is legendarily different when you do this. I mean, just the people who have really high quality people have a high BS meter. They can see through you a mile away. All your little tricks that you're doing, they can see it. So you're going to be attracting a much higher quality of person to date or be friends with or network with. You're going to wind up building literally organizations, and you will be a powerful, iconic leader within your organization. You'll be a transformative leader in your organization when you have this being aspect down. Or if you're somebody who works for someone else, you're going to be that person that is invaluable, that linchpin, because of this being paradigm. It means that you're operating on an entirely different level. Now, to basically explain why you'll operate on a different level, the way that I would put it to you is like this. A lot of the time through taking massive action, this can be so powerful, and I love it, and that's why I always teach it. But there's these second and third order consequences where you don't realize that you're actually making your life a lot harder. You think that you're moving yourself forward, you're kind of running forward, but you're actually moving backwards in a way that you don't even realize. So let's say that you walk up to someone, you start talking to them, and you're really trying hard with your eye contact. That's like a technique, eye contact, looking deeply in their eyes. And you're using a bit more projection. So now you're looking in the eye, and you got your projection up, and your body language is nice and loose. You're using a good body language technique. And then maybe you use a funny line. I'm gonna marry you, divorce you, and take half your money. And what it does, it creates what's called this uncanny valley effect. Look that up, the uncanny valley, where what's happening in the uncanny valley is in AI, when you're creating artificial intelligence, if you make a robot or an animation, a computer animation that looks almost like a human, at first as you're getting more human-like, it looks better and better. Like you go from a cartoon to like a pretty cool graphic of a human, it looks really cool. It gets cooler and cooler. But at a certain point, when it almost looks like a human, when it's just about to look like a human, this AI or maybe a computer graphic, almost human, but not quite, it creates what's called the uncanny valley effect, and it makes us feel physically sick. We feel nauseous. So just imagine how Disney was able to transition from cartoons to these really cool computer animations like what you see in Pixar. And as those animations got better and better, we would like the movie more. It gets really, really cool. It looks so lifelike and human, and it really makes it very captivating. But at a certain point, what they found with animation, for example, I think there was a movie called Beowulf or something, I'll correct it under here if I didn't get it right, but there were certain movies with computer animation where it got a little bit too close to looking human. And what happens is that as you go from, say, a written animation that looks really nice to a computer animation that looks better, but then you get towards things like Beowulf or even Alita Battle Angel, which I actually love that movie, by the way, but Alita Battle Angel, where it looks almost human, a lot of people will report feeling physically sick. There's actually a sickening feeling that people will get when seeing somebody who's almost human, and they call this the uncanny valley. So oftentimes what happens when you're using a lot of technique or different behaviors is you'll have this uncanny valley effect where by walking up and trying to use the perfect eye contact, trying to change your voice, trying to look dominant, it winds up coming across a little bit off. And the result of it, what you'll see, and I would see this myself, is that higher level people that can kind of see through the BS, they will see through it and they'll laugh along with you and they'll think that you're a lot of fun for a minute, but then they kind of walk off. And you'll wind up meeting and attracting people that are, even some people that are physically attractive, but they're not as sharp socially. They're not as socially savvy. They're not as intelligent. And sometimes you still will attract people that are more intelligent, but they kind of feel bad for you. So even when I was in the behavioral frame, the technique frame, I definitely was able to date some pretty incredible people, but they would kind of look at me like, oh, and they kind of knew. As opposed to when you're coming from the being frame, where they really look up to you and admire you. So ultimately, the downside of the technique aspect to it is that it has that uncanny valley effect. And going even deeper, another problem that it can also have is that if you actually look at the inherent underlying frames within using techniques, that's also a very big problem, because coming from a frame that you need a technique inherently means that you feel that you don't have enough value to be who you are. Now, by the way, I want to be clear, there's other ways of seeing this. There's very viable and real counter arguments to this, which I will address, and they're very spot on. But what can happen is that there is an underlying frame. It's coming from what I'd almost call the infiltration frame, where you feel like you're not on that person's level and you're kind of infiltrating them. You're kind of like subverting the social order to get them attracted to you or to be friends with them. And so the whole time you're hanging out with them, you can feel a little bit fake, or you can feel a little bit like you're not enough. I had this experience where when I went from technique to trying just making casual conversations, my knees would start shaking, and I actually got bruises inside my knees because they started shaking so much because I felt so uncomfortable just being who I was. And I was hiding behind all these different techniques, and it was like I was treading water. So in effect, this kind of infiltration underlying frame, or this kind of water treading that you get where you're trying to pump life into every interaction rather than taking space, letting them talk, it's kind of this weird thing. And what you'll see a lot of the time when you're focused on technique or taking action is you're moving things forward, but while moving it forward, you're actually moving it backwards. And unfortunately, what I just said there is very deep and has a lot of layers to it. And the funny thing is the people who know, and the people who don't know, they can't hear this. But you're taking action, and it would appear that things are getting better from the action, but they're actually becoming worse. So maybe you're walking up to someone and attracting them, and they're laughing at what you're saying, but as they're laughing at what you're saying, they're also seeing that kind of uncanny valley effect, and they're actually distancing themselves from you, or they're kind of going along with you as an entertainer, but maybe not somebody that they want physical intimacy with, or to work with, or to network with, or a deep friendship with. And then you get these odd wins, so you feel like it's working, and then it further reinforces it. But here's the other side. What winds up happening is you're deepening the sense of inadequacy, because every time that someone likes you, or maybe you go home with somebody, what winds up happening is that you feel more and more like it's this thing that you have to do. You're playing a character. And so ultimately, what we need as humans is unconditional love. We need self-love and unconditional love from other people, at least to some extent. That's, again, very dicey, very, very dicey, but it is something that we crave. And so, you know, we could make a whole video on the essence of self-love and unconditional love, but just take the main point, which is that we crave that acceptance. And if we're learning in our body and our neurology that we've got to put on a song and dance and act in a certain way in order to get that love or approval, that's going to create this insane gap to where the more that we get love and approval from taking on a certain fake persona, the more isolated and starved for love and approval we actually get. We get to the point where we're so empty, and it can create very, very bad psychological issues that are going on inside of you that can take years to unwire. A lot of times people that become celebrities, they get driven to the point of suicide or drugs. You can see this everywhere, and there's a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is that they're actually starved for unconditional love, or starved for people really liking them who they are in their essence, in their being. Now, of course, this can get confusing, because then what winds up happening, so, okay, we've talked about the downsides of the technique side, but let's talk about the downsides of the being side. So this gets confusing, because what winds up happening is that you hear about this being thing, being, not doing, frame-based attraction rather than technique-based attraction. You hear about this, and like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of insulting. It's kind of condescending. It's like, you should just love yourself. Why don't you just love yourself? Get present to the moment and be. And you'll hear this, and you'll think, look, I think I love myself. I mean, I want to meet someone to date. I want that. And I can't get present to the moment because my thoughts are attacking me. I can't stop thinking. Oh, stop thinking, stop thinking. Be, love myself. Oh, I'm so great. Thank you for Owen for teaching me to love myself. I'm so great. I'm being, presence, That's how it sounds when you're first learning about it. It's insulting. It's condescending. There's no actionable steps to even start on this. Where do you even begin to switch from technique-based social skills to frame-based social skills? How do you even start? There's nothing to bite into. There's nothing to do. And the things that we're telling you to do are confusing. Ultimately, really what's happening here is that when you're kind of at a lower level, you know what your control muscles are. Please say this with me, your control muscles. But you haven't been trained by society to know what your release muscles are. And a lot of time in life, it's a very powerful spiritual concept. You can research that if you like. When we're trying to control everything and we're in our head and we're kind of clamping up, what happens is that we get results, but we're actually making things harder. We're getting results, but actually moving further away from our goal. This is very weird, but it's like, there's basically like a negative karma attachment to each action when it's taken from a need for a result. You can read the Bhagavad Gita on this. Don't need to believe in it. It's just a crazy story. It's just explaining some universal principles, right? The reason why that book is so famous, it's not because of the crazy story, the Bhagavad Gita. It's an original, like a text from back in the day. It's because there's very powerful universal principles. And in that book, what it says is, we have the right to the action, but not to the fruit of the action. I know that sounds crazy, but the basic meaning of that is that when we can just enjoy what we're doing in the moment, like if I'm talking to you right now and I'm loving what I'm saying, I don't need this video to work. I don't need this video to impress you. I don't need this video to get 1 million views. All that I need is to love this action. When I'm doing that, the video will have a higher frequency to it and be more likely to make an impact. Versus if I need a result and I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I need every technique for the video, the speaking technique, the hand technique, the eye contact technique, the voice technique. And it's like I'm trying to be this character and I need something. It's gonna come across like I'm a newbie, kind of not a veteran speaker, a veteran teacher, right? But if I'm in my being and communicating naturally and letting it flow through me, well, that means that instead of using my control muscles, I'm using my release muscles. You probably don't even know what your release muscles are. I'll make a whole separate video about that. But basically, when you let go and you let it move through you, all those witty lines are gonna come out naturally. all these cool things, that confidence, all that stuff, it just starts popping out. It's beautiful. It's in the moment. It's powerful. It's so much fun. When you're out in that venue, that bar, club, talking to everybody, you're just being, it's flowing out of you. Jokes are coming out. Stories are coming out. You know when is the perfect time to connect physically. You can feel what they're feeling. Your mental bandwidth isn't stuck in trying to control everything and get approval. Your mental bandwidth is in the environment itself. You can feel the responses. You can feel them. A little look in that moment from being can be more powerful than the best technique. I mean, this will sound crazy, again, if you're not aware of this stuff, but you can learn to just throw your energy. It's very common if I'm in seminar, somebody will say to me, how do you get someone to laugh on a date? And I'll say, watch this. I just do the slightest twitch of my eyes. I can show examples of this, and they start cracking up. Well, look at that. If I had the perfect line to say that was so funny, versus if I just move my energy in my being, I'm being that funny person. I'm just being it. I'm not doing it, I'm being it, and I can get everybody to start laughing. A common thing I've done in my videos is shown examples where I'll approach people without even talking. Next thing you know, we're kissing. Next thing you know, we're going home together. And I'm not even talking. I call that the silent opener. That's the power of being. And it can be so much more powerful than anything that I did 20 years ago when I was learning about doing. So we can see here that there's a lot to this being idea, this frame-based idea of attraction, but it can be very condescending, and it can be very, very hard to know where to start. And I understand that. I am very empathetic to that. So the way that I try to teach it is I try to teach it on a few different levels. One is that in a lot of my seminars, I try to crack a lot of jokes and to be very self-amused with my friends, very free, very liberated, and kind of in the moment with a kind of devil-may-care attitude, a carefree attitude. And I like communicating this in my seminars, just acting like this, because you can watch it and you can sort of take on the vibe. Now, somebody who's newer, who's more trapped in their head, who can't even feel energy. Like if you can't feel energy because you're too logical and trapped in your head, you're seeing that and you're going, tell me what to do right now. I don't know what to do. Help me, Owen. Help me. Don't just sit there laughing. When I'm sitting there laughing in the seminar, you might even feel like I'm laughing at your problems. Why are you laughing at my problems, Mr. Seminar Leader who's already having success? Help me. Stop laughing at my problems. But I'm not laughing at your problems. I'm trying to make you aware of different energies, of that energy of laughter, of self-amusement. There's an energy that's so powerful where you may have an intention and you want to meet someone, you want to get out there, you want to socialize, but it's right when you let go of that intent. There's intent, but freedom of outcome. Intent, but letting go of it. And you just attract things to you. And this is not some weird hokey thing. This is what results in things like the silent opener, where you just walk up and you want it, and there's a clear intent in your eye contact, but you've released the need for it. It's so incredible, so powerful. And of course, when I'm seeing that, when I'm able to walk up to people, next thing you know, we're making out, and I haven't said anything, of course I'm gonna wanna teach that. Of course I wanna show you that. I don't wanna sit there with you telling every last little thing to say when I could show you this, but here's the thing, I get it. It's not understandable right away. You need something clear that you can bite your teeth into, and when you can bite your teeth into it, you can start understanding it, and then from there, you know, as you're doing it, then you can start being it. And for that reason, what I love to do is explain the power in a lot of my newbie videos of eye contact, of vocal use, of body language, of humor, of the types of things that can be good to say, where you're creating a good vibe, but not necessarily chasing rapport with somebody. A really powerful thing as far as technique that will never change is actually having your logistics dialed, you know, having a great place to go, having a good social media funnel to put people into, having people to go out with who you've cultivated that are really cool and powerful. Those are things that never change. There's always that 10 or 20% as far as the technique that never changes, that you always need. And for that reason, what I like to do, and you're gonna see these in other videos, I've mentioned them here, but I like every video to be focused, is that you're gonna get to a point where you can go out and you can try having eye contact that maybe you're not used to. You could do things like an eye contact challenge. Just practice holding eye contact with someone as they walk by. You could do things like a vocal challenge, maybe just challenging yourself to speak louder and letting it project. Now, by the way, talk about power versus force. Talk about, you know, controlling versus releasing. When you try using vocal, when you first learn from me, you're gonna be like, ah, and it's gonna suck. And then when you just, hey, and it's just gonna flow out. Do you see that? When I just let it goes out. Again, talking about why I'm so passionate about this, I do seminars for 700, 800 people, no mic. I just let my voice go out. People at the back are rocking it with me. It's so crazy. And people are thinking, are you opera trained? Are you an opera singer? No, it really is. Hey, I just let go. I'm not a perfect singer, but I just let go and it just powers out to the back. Or You know, I'm doing a video like this. I have a general framework in my mind of what I want to communicate to you, but I just let it go. And it's fun, and I can communicate and have energy. And even if the structure of this video is not perfect, it's generally good enough, and the energy will have people watching it and get great views. So understand that, yes, I get it, that it can be a little bit difficult to kind of bite your teeth into it, and that's why we do give, all you really have to do is look it up. Like, this isn't being hidden from you. We don't need to cover this every video. The videos are there. Do a search, look for newbie guides where we cover this stuff, or maybe pick up a digital program from us or do a live event with us or whatever it is. Lots of free videos too. But basically what you have is you can learn that basic level of technique and get it down and start doing it. But here's my conclusion. Here's the ultimate key of it. This is everything what I'm going to tell you right now. The main key of it is with every single technique I would show you, you have to follow the trail of gold as a signpost back to the being. So you have behavior and you have being, and you have to follow it back to being. So if you look at eye contact, you can't just do eye contact and say, this is some trick that I'm going to learn is doing eye contact, and then people will like me. Ask yourself, if you are filled with present energy, rooted and grounded in your being, relaxed, zenned out, happy, had a high feeling of self-worth, loved yourself, felt that you're somebody who offers value, all these underlying frames, right? These beautiful frames that you change as far as your being. If you had that down, well, of course, naturally, you're going to hold eye contact. It's so natural that you would do that. Of course, you're going to do that. So you've got to ask yourself, is it just eye contact? You know, or is there something that is pointing towards? Say with your voice when it's projecting well, and you're like, hey, hey, and like, I don't even want to do that. It'll hurt my voice. Again, I'd get me yelling, but it will move me backwards by hurting my voice and sounding weird. So what does it mean when the voice naturally projects easily? Why is it that so many people that are high status, you can hear them across the room? They're relaxed. They don't need anything. They're being. I mean, even from a simple perspective, when you're low status, you're always doing stuff and microanalyzing yourself because you're not happy. But when you're happy, you have connections, you have people in your life. You don't need to think that much. You're just being. Think about maybe right after you just hooked up and you're just lying there in the bed. Some people are like, you know, smoking a cigarette. I don't do that. But you're just relaxing, that kind of vibe. And then that communicates social proof and social status. So vocal, what is it? What is the signpost? It's pointing to the fact that you're already at ease with yourself. That's why your voice is projecting. It's not to power over people necessarily. It could be sometimes, but not necessarily. Body language, proper body language, loose, relaxed, taking space, but not too much. Again, people that try to learn body language, they're taking up too much space or taking up not enough space. What would be natural? What's it pointing towards? How about a big one is self-amusement, one of the most powerful techniques of all. I mean, really, maybe the most powerful, I don't know, but so powerful is amusing yourself rather than reaction seeking. What is that pointing towards? What does that mean when you have that? What does it say about you? So as you're doing that, understanding what is pointing you towards, what you can then do is just simply say to yourself, oh, this is pointing me towards a certain way of being, a certain frame. Cool. You know, maybe I could love myself. Maybe I could be present to the moment. Maybe I could just let go. Maybe I could just let my eye contact relax on the person I'm talking to. Maybe I could stop microanalyzing. Maybe I could assume that I'm the prize and then people are lucky to be with me. Maybe I could communicate in this kind of funny way where I'm teasing people and getting them chasing me a little bit. Maybe I could be the anchor of that club or bar. Maybe I'm that cool guy. And as you begin to have that deeply embed itself into your being, that is when things become so powerful. But the way that you got there was by taking the behavior and then simply, as you're doing it, asking yourself, what is this leading me towards? And I'll wrap with this because this is so beautiful and I'm so excited for you to have this kind of experience. What's going to wind up happening is as you do this, just like I was saying at the start of this video, where I would see Eben Pagan's program on being a man, and all of a sudden it opened me up to this whole new world. This is going to open you up to a whole new world. And just like, you know, light speed versus warp speed, if you like that, what's going to wind up happening is you're going to start, the being is going to create its own momentum, and magic is going to start happening. It's going to be to the point where you're going to start seeing weird serendipitous things happening. Because what's happening is your reticular activation system is actually opening up to opportunity that you couldn't even see. You're going to be able to read people so well because you're out of your head and able to read what they're feeling. You're going to be able to work longer hours because you're not just grinding it out and in this kind of inferior frame, but you're coming from a frame that you're already okay. What I'm so excited for you is that this is going to create its own momentum, and your reticular activation system is going to start opening up to possibilities that you didn't even see. I'm going to leave you this. The world has all these things in that you can't even see right now. Just like me with that Eben Pagan seminar, The world is filled with so many things that you can't even see right now. And as the world just starts opening up to you, this beingness that you have is going to start creating its own momentum, and you're going to tap into powers and potentials that you have no idea. People are always coming to me saying, why did you stay in the whole dating thing for so long? What are you getting out of it? I have a social circle that already feeds me a lot of dates and those kind of wild, kinky, fun experiences. I don't need to go out and work on this. But I do it because that beingness, every time that I go out, it amplifies. I'm making magic happen that I thought was impossible. So I would invite you to begin to walk down this path and see where the magic is, to see what your true potential is, to see how much easier this could be, to continually ask yourself, where am I making this easy and where am I making this hard? Am I walking forward thinking a technique is helping me but walking backwards? Or maybe I'm using a technique or a behavior, taking action, and even though maybe I'm walking back a bit, it's showing me things and opening me up to things, and you could follow back that little path of gold and understand where it's really leading to you to. And this for me is why I'm in this for you. That's the secret, if you want to know. That's the secret. Because as you move up into this paradigm, you're going to be so satisfied with life that all the other aspects of it that you think are so important, you're not even going to care about them that much anymore, and you'll have them anyway. Oh, I need to meet people, social skills, need to meet a date, make friends, network. Oh, it's like, that'll just handle itself. And you'll still enjoy doing it, but it will handle itself. You won't even care about it, and you'll have it. It'll be like, do you care if you're popular or not in high school now? No, you don't really care. But you could go do it if you want. That's what your dating life's gonna be like. So I'm very, very excited for you to have that experience. I hope that this motivated you to go out, try some techniques, try some different methods, some different systems, get out there, try it out, and then just keep asking yourself, what frames and way of being is this leading you towards? And now the sun is down, so I'm gonna wrap this video here at Waimea Bay in Hawaii. Beautiful experience, people taking the plunge, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.